When we hear the term sustainability, most of us likely relate it to concepts like green infrastructure, water resources, or perhaps business practices. This evening, presenter Jessica Little will be introducing this concept as it applies to recreation in southern Arizona. Recreation strategy likely isn't the first thing that comes to mind when sustainability is the topic, but considering the high importance of recreational opportunity in this region, it deserves to be. Jessica's project aims to provide the public with an interface that combines disparate sources of recreation GIS data from southern Arizona into a user-friendly format to help site visitors plan recreational activities and also assist planners with how to better serve the population in terms of recreational demand. Jessica has been instrumental in this process, and it is hoped that this system will eventually expand beyond the bounds of southern Arizona. Take it away, Jessica.
Thanks, John, and thanks everyone for coming out to our last night of presentations. Like John said, my name is Jessica Little, and I'll be sharing with you the work I did this past year with my internship with the Southeast Arizona Sustainable Recreation Strategy, and the process that I went through to develop an online application of recreation opportunities in Southeast Arizona. So just to look at what we're going to go through tonight, I'll explain what is sustainable recreation and why is it important. I'll go through the data gathering and data model creation processes, and then the online web map and application development process. I'll then demo the story map that I ended with, and then we'll move on to some next steps and moving forward. So this whole slide comes from a government accountability report in 2012. They looked solely at Forest Service trails, and they found that that year the Forest Service was only able to maintain a little more than a third of their miles of trails, which resulted in over $300 million in maintenance backlog costs. And if you add that to over $200 million in just annual maintenance costs, you can see how this all can start to add up pretty quickly with only $100 million in funding and volunteer labor. So all of these unmaintained features can pose a safety threat not only to users but also to the landscape surrounding those features. And these photos are a couple of trails that are no longer doing their job in removing water or not letting water sink in. And employees of, I would say, all land management agencies in general, they're faced with limited funding, limited numbers of people, maybe sporadic training or whatever the case may be. And they also deal with time-consuming administrative procedures, paperwork, doing stuff in the office when I'm sure they'd rather be out in the field. And also increased use by the public, which is a good thing, except this can cause more wear and tear on these features more quickly than they can be maintained. So the response to this, the Forest Service created this Sustainable Recreation Initiative. It started at a nationwide level, and the hope is for it to sort of trickle down through the regions and to individual forests. The Coronado National Forest here in Tucson, they've teamed with Southwest Decision Resources to create this strategy. Many goals involved. I would say the ones I latched onto the most involve improving communication between agencies themselves and also between agencies and the public, and also to increase public awareness and participation. Just let the public know more about what's available and what opportunities there are for them, and if they want to become involved. So this project had sort of two products, an interagency sort of internal web map in ArcGIS Online, and also a public-facing application for the public to use. So before I even joined this project, it was already decided that we would use the AZ Geo Clearinghouse to share data. It's more of a secure way and peace of mind for the agencies. They know it's not just being thrown out onto the internet for anyone to see. To access it, you need an account, and you also need access to the Sustainable Recreation Group. And here, a list of some of the agencies who provided data so far. And here's just a map of the areas that have been involved thus far. The Coronado in green, over the Sky Islands. Saguaro National Park, east and west around Tucson. Organ Pipe National Monument out west. And Pima County and City of Tucson around the Tucson area. So once I got all the data off of AZGeo, I had to sort of assess what was there. It was a lot to kind of go through. And I ended organizing it all into a geodatabase. I ended with 3 feature data sets, 9 feature classes total, and then as many domains as possible that I could think of creating. And so each of those 9 feature classes got its own attribute table based on input from as many people as possible on what would be useful to see for each type of feature class. You obviously wouldn't want the same sort of attributes for trails versus campgrounds. There's different information that would be useful to show. So I assigned all of the data to those feature classes, populated the tables as much as I could. Sometimes the information just really wasn't there. And applied domains as often as I could. You can see in the right side there. It just prevents human input error for more accurate querying later on. And we can see here how the table would sort of translate to the pop-up in the application. So that's what that would look like. And wherever possible, I tried to include links on the bottom there. As detailed as possible. If it was a link to like that specific campground, I put that. So if you clicked on that here, it would take you to the Desert Museum's website. So once I had the database where I wanted it, I uploaded it to ArcGIS Online and created a web map. I filtered out information that we didn't necessarily want the public to have access to. Nothing like top secret. But, I symbolized all the layers, added any like relevant services, and then once that was done, I added it to an application using Esri's web app builder. I added a few widgets. The template I ended up using didn't really allow for a ton of widgets without further development. And I also created 4 filters, which are really sort of the bread and butter of the application. They allow the users to filter down and display the features just that they're more interested in. So once that was done, I embedded it into a story map. I thought this would just be a nicer way to sort of display all this to the public and just a more like cohesive information. So this is the page that you would come to when you first open the story map. There's 5 tabs across the top. I can't see on the screen. 5 tabs. On the first page, I included links to these frameworks for if anyone's interested in reading them, and some details of the other tabs. I've already cheated and opened them all up here individually so they load properly, just in case the Wi-Fi was slow. So this is the application, the whole like brunt of this project. And this is the splash screen you get when you first enter it. I created this sort of how-to document just to explain more of how to like navigate the map, the widgets, what like a pop-up would look like, and just some information on how to use the filters. And people have to not read the disclaimer, I guess, but at least accept it before they can get in. So this is the default of what you would be looking at. There's a lot in here, and it gets kind of cluttered. Not even everything is turned on right now. But we can see the parks in the colors. Wilderness boundaries with the dashed lines. Trails are symbolized by surface type. And we have, let's see. So in here is the legend of whatever you have turned on. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what's all in here. The layer list to turn layers on or off. I don't have everything by default turned on. And also base map gallery. I personally like to zoom really far in on imagery and see what's there. And I also included links to the strategy website, wilderness information, and leave no trace ethics, just if you're going to go out there and do it right. And over here are the filters. So kind of maybe go through these pretty quickly. So say we zoom in, say I live out here somewhere. So I could search for, I have a dog, I want to go somewhere I can take my dog, I would check it on. So not many options. Or trailhead type, I want an actual trailhead so I can find it easily. Or surface type. And then to clear your searches, it's kind of clunky. You have to go through and individually uncheck all these. So it's kind of fun to play around with. And there's all of these options for the trails. This is the campgrounds one. There's not a ton of campgrounds out there, so it's kind of hard to show. But just some options you can go through, all the various activities, and the agencies, or just the boring old administrative buildings. So that's sort of a really quick rundown of that. And I also pulled in a story map that the Southwest region of the Forest Service had also created of their sustainable recreation projects around the region. I just thought, throw as much out there as possible. So users can peruse all through these. They all have a paragraph explaining everything. I included as many links as possible that I could come up with of agencies, organizations, volunteer groups, clubs, whatever floats your boat. Hopefully you could find something there. And then I created another story map. This is Esri's new crowdsourced story map. It's still in beta, so it doesn't always work perfectly without crashing. But users can upload photos of things that they do out and about. They would just hit participate, upload their photos, supply a description, location, and then this would go to whoever is controlling this on the back end, and they can either accept or reject before it shows up on here. So these are just a few of mine that I included. So description, and it just kind of pans you around the map. So that's about that for that. Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to include as much potentially other useful information as possible in addition to the app. So let's see if I can find this. Okay. Okay. So this project just served sort of as the first steps just to draw interest. The hope is to get more agencies involved and expand the area. Some agencies might be reluctant to participate until they sort of understand like what's possible and see something visually. So this could be something just, it's not perfect, but just something to show. And right now all this is just sitting in my accounts and on my laptop. So it all needs to be sort of sent out somewhere to sit permanently. Since this is a Forest Service initiative, my hope is maybe they would take over, at least in like a storage capacity. And this project, I wasn't able to use an ArcGIS for server connection because of firewall issues. But there's a lot that could be done once there is a connection. First off, it would be easier to update the data without completely starting over in the online stuff. And there's a closures layer that could be updated more easily. Also, there is a trail elevation widget. Users can click on a trail and it would show the elevation profile. And also a report widget, which I think would help sort of increase communication between the public and agencies. So I just want to give special thanks to Colleen. She couldn't be here tonight, I don't think. And her whole staff. They do a lot for this project and other projects as well, just keeping everything going in the right direction. So thank you. And to the whole mapping and inventory team, especially Jen and John, for all their collaboration and assistance. So, the app isn't live yet. I didn't have time to do that today, but hopefully by tomorrow, if anyone would like to take a look, it would be there. So thank you. Are there any questions? Yeah.
So has anybody from the Forest Service seen any iteration of this yet?
No, except for Joe tonight, just now. So he's the first.
I think it's getting close. I need to see it.
Yeah, I agree. I can send you the URL. Anything else?
Speaking of that, do you mind putting the URL for your site up on the search so we can take a look at it?
Yeah.
I figure out where I can walk my dog.
Yeah, right? It's helpful. Anything? All right, thanks guys.